And then that's why everybody collaborated so good and worked together. It was a true team. It was, everybody's had heart, man, big heart in those days.
No, you're going to give me a build sheet for that car. and I'm like, you're not getting one from me. You're going to have to go see someone else. And he's like, you're going to give me a build sheet for that car. And I ended up giving him a build sheet for that car because I think that was another time I was ready to get my ass kicked.
Hello everybody, welcome to a special edition of Pub Table Racers and the Garage Shop Insider podcast brought to you by LabWare. Tonight, 6 people who worked together at a very special team at a very special time are together for the first time in many years. We're going to talk about the good times, the bad times, and the difficult times we had, and we're going to share that all with you tonight. The show is called Highway 3 Reunion, Beyond the Gates. My name's Tim Packman. When I worked there, I was in the communications department and also public relations. Joining us tonight is
Aaron Brown. I really don't know what my job was at DEI, but I had a great time working there.
That's good.
Brian Cram. I was the shop foreman on the 8 car.
I am Warren Brosell. I was the plate leader on the 15 car fabricator.
Tim Clements, and I worked on the 15 plate also as a fabricator and body hanger.
My name's Jeff Clark. I worked in the engine department, worked with all these guys, and we had a great time back in the day and won a lot of great races.
Perfect. When's the last time you think we're all together?
It's been a long time,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, all together at once for sure.
Yeah.
So real quick, we'll get caught up what we're
20
doing
years.
now.
Yeah, 20 years.
So I'm with Pub Table Racers and the Garage Shop as the host of that. Warren is my co-host on Pub Table Racers. Working at the Garage Shop now, Aaron is Aaron Brown's Garage Shop. Yourself, Brian, and Tim all work here together. So it's been kind of like you've been living a reunion, you three, being together.
We got a lot of people from DEI that work here, and that's a testament to how good those people were. And we've been working together a long time here. You know, some of us 5, 6, 7 years. You know, Tim's been with me faithfully 6, 7 years now. And, you know, Brian came on last year, and I don't see anybody going anywhere anytime soon.
Okay, and Warren, you're currently working at?
I'm working at Penske.
And Jeff?
Working with Roush Yates Engines with Doug Yates over there.
And what's your title there?
EVP of NASCAR business.
I just like you to say that because, you know, when we all work together, who knew I was going to be track president, you will be an EVP, all the things we ended up doing. So a lot of us kind of got here. So let's start with you two. You guys come from Wisconsin. You guys knew each other, worked together up there.
Yeah, we're like brothers.
Yeah, Tim actually hired me. Tim was working at a body shop in West Dallas, Wisconsin, and I needed a job. And
But wait a minute, why did you need a job? What was your other option?
my other option was to be taken to the recruiter and go into the Army. That was my father who said, you're going to find a job or you're going into the service.
See, my dad made me join the military. I did the military thing, and then
You probably had it coming.
I did. Sorry.
Sure.
So
I
anyways,
bailed my friend
yeah,
out.
so
He didn't have to go to the Army.
Tim was my boss, and he also taught me how to do body work because I was pretty green at it. So Tim was he was a professional at it, and he taught me how to do body work, which
We had a lot of good times.
we
there.
did. I somewhat regret learning how to do body work. But,
So
you know,
who came go ahead.
you're supposed to never tell anybody you have a CDL or you can do body work.
Exactly right.
Especially fiberglass.
Right.
So what brought you, who came down first between you two?
Warren came down.
Right?
So I came down and I actually started working at Penske Crenifus and left there to go to DEI because Paul Andrews and I had a rapport together. And about 2 or 3 years later, I told Tim we could use some good help, and why don't you come down and apply. I think you ended up working somewhere else first.
I worked for George Debedard first
Okay.
on Mike McLaughlin's car, the 48 Goulds Pumps car.
So you guys ended up exchanging a favor.
And then
Yeah.
Very good.
about 6 months into that, I ended up working at DEI.
Perfect. Jeff, how did
And
you
Tim
end up?
ended up working for me
Oh, so now it's reversed.
because I was a plate leader.
Right.
But
That was
Okay.
trouble.
this gets into a whole nother story.
That's fine. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay.
Slow down. How did you end up at DEI?
So I started with Robert Yates Racing, the 28 car, Davey Allison. Doug Yates and I were best friends growing up from grade school on through, and we got to our middle 20s and started butting heads. and it was a family business, and I didn't want to lose my best friend, so I opted out. Ended up at Penske for a short term there, and when I showed up there, Dale Sr. came to the garage like, "What the hell are you doing this for? I'm getting ready to start something up on Highway 3. You need to come talk to me." So it didn't work out real for a long time at the 2 car at the time. Got a call the Monday after Daytona 500, and it was Dale Sr. saying, "Hey, I heard you're not at that car anymore. When are you going to come up and come work for us?" And I was like, "Who the hell is this?" And he goes,
Okay, you didn't hang up on him like a lot of people.
"Right."
Got it.
I got the call that I heard a lot of people would get, and he's all brash and telling you, "Get your ass up here, bring your pay stub." I'm like, "For what?" He said, "Because I'm not going to let you get me into some salary that you don't know or I don't know about." So I said, "Is that legal?" He said, "I don't care, but that's how I work." So I had to come up there literally with my pay stub and go through the whole engine department. Richie Gilmore had just come on from Hendrick, and he was showing us what he was going to build there. And at the time, the center building was all that had started. The other buildings were under construction. It was really a good time to get on the ground floor. And then they just put the whole RAD program together, and that's what really led to the dominance at DEI, where everybody thought it was engines.
Richard, Andy Petrie, and
Yes,
Dale
Dale
Earnhardt. So, yeah, got it.
They did all the collaboration with the wind tunnel and all the aero, and then Tim Weiss and all you guys made the engine department look like heroes, because there was a race, and I think we all remember it, when I think the cross member came off the 15 car, 8 car blew a fender, and it's running 2nd and 3rd with no fender on it, and everybody's like, "Man, that engine must be incredible power." And I'm like, "No, the whole car is just incredible shape, and if you only knew."
Right.
And again, the guys built the best cars, made the engine department look good, and that's what you got to have. You have to have great cars, great engines, and great teams, and we did. So started there with show up with your pay stub, and then led to 12, almost 15 years of great times.
Did he up your pay stub, or did he match it?
He just matched it. He actually tried to discount it and said, "Hey, you're working for me.
Do you know who I am?
You're
Yeah.
working for Dale Earnhardt.
The
like,
Dale
your
discount.
shirt, right?"
It
And I
is,
said,
yeah.
"I can't take that to the bank, or I can't buy my groceries with
Right.
your name, Dale." And he was going on a weekend trip with Teresa, and he said, "Well, I don't know if we can afford this." He said, "That Yates pay and that Penske pay," he said, "we don't pay like that." He is always
sure.
working
Well,
the deal.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'll give you a call." And then I got a call, my first call ever on a satellite phone. Got a call over the weekend. I didn't realize when he said he's going off for the weekend, I thought they were going to the mountains. It was an off weekend in racing. They're in the Bahamas on their boat.
Sure. They can't
And this
afford to
phone's
go.
coming through, and every time you try to say something, he's like, shut up, wait for me to finish talking. And like he's telling you how to
Right.
run the phone call. He said, "Teresa said it's okay. You come up there Monday.
Yeah.
It's 8 cylinders, 16 valves. They all work the same way. Doesn't matter Ford or Chevy. Just learn our fire and order. You'll be fine. Come on up."
Perfect. That's how you
And then
started.
that's how it started.
Brian, you had an interesting way how you started DEI.
So, when I went to work there, I was working at home in Massachusetts, and my brother Clinton he was already working at DEI, and he came home for Thanksgiving, and I was collecting unemployment and working on a couple race cars in the shop at my house and building a Bush North car. And he goes, "Why don't you come back to North Carolina with me? I'm going to be down there. I'm going to come back at Christmas time, so just come down and hang out till Christmas time and then come back." So I, of course, rode back with him, and that Monday morning I dropped him off at work at DEI, and I went and visited a couple people that I knew. And when I got back that night, he said, "Come on in the shop, I want to introduce you to somebody." So when I got in there, it was Dale and Randy Earnhardt were both standing in
So
there.
you met Dale Earnhardt. That was your first time in
that
there.
was first time meeting him. So my brother introduced him. He said, "This is my brother Brian. He can build pretty much anything. He's here for 3-4 weeks. If you want to just put him to work while he's here, he can do anything." So he says, "What do you got to make for money?" And I said, "I don't even care if you pay me, because I'm collecting unemployment." And Randy goes, "That's perfect. We can get you for free."
That's Randy.
He says, "You're pretty darn slick." He goes, "We're going to pay you this amount of money and you start." And I'm like, holy cow, that's more than I was making,
Yeah.
20 years in the auto body business. So the next morning, he says, "Meet you here tomorrow morning and we'll take you down and introduce you to Tony Sr." So I met him there that morning. He says, as soon as I walk in the shop, Big E's like, "Get you a cup of coffee." And I'm like, "I'm all set." He goes, "No, get a cup of coffee." So I grab coffee, and it's in an open cup. He says, "Ride with Randy down the street. We're going to take you down and introduce you to Tony Sr." So I climb in Randy's truck, and we pull out on it was 134.
Whatever it was
Yeah.
called. It wasn't 3.
It wasn't 3 at the time. So we pulled out on the highway, and As soon as we get on the road, it's like bang from behind. The truck turns sideways, spill coffee all over me, and Randy just never checks up. He just kind of steers through it, and he goes, "That's every day around here." Dale come up and just plowed us in the tail. So we get down there, and I knew the minute it was just obvious why I had to have a cup of coffee. In my hand. Spill it all
Insisted on it, right?
over me. Right.
Right?
So
That's how you started.
that's how I started.
All right, so Aaron, how did you end up at Highway 3?
Well, at the time, I was working for Evernham Motorsports, and I kind of started. Ray had just started that team. I think I was 12th, 13th person he hired when they started that deal, and I really liked that job. That was really probably one of the best jobs I've ever had, because it was my first introduction into engineering, into like all this science of racing. And we I went to work there, and I was in the fab shop, and Sammy Johns was the crew chief of the test team. Well, then another guy was crew chief Casey Atwood's car. Sammy said, "Hey, Aaron, come over here. I want you to work on a test team with me. We're gonna do all this stuff." And it's like, okay, that's better than making crush panels, So I go over there, and a few months later, well, they fired the other crew chief for Casey, put Sammy Johns in place. And Ray asked Sammy, "Well, who should run the test team?" Right.
Okay.
So I'm like, "Wow, yeah, this is great." And we did a lot of amazing stuff there. I mean, that team was ahead of its time, and Ray was a great cheerleader. He was a great owner. The thing about Ray, and I think you go back to Steve Meal and guys like that, Paul Andrews, do your job, be the best out of it, and don't expect a pat on the back. Just do your job. And I like that, because that's the way it was in the military. So I was very familiar with that. And, Ray ended up hiring this another guy to run the company, and that didn't work out.
I remember that. I remember that guy.
that didn't work out. And, it was just like, boom, we were running the test team. We were doing a lot of neat stuff with Brendan Gaughan. Bill Elliott was driving the test car, and we were going to the wind tunnels 3 times a week down at Lockheed, and we had all the resources to do everything we needed. They hired this other guy, and then it was an instant train wreck. And
We've all heard that story before, right?
Yeah, one person.
Just changing the name, yeah.
yeah.
So where did the DI? Where did the
Well,
whole-
that's where. So
okay.
I knew Andy Johnson had went over there to work on the RAD program at DEI, and I had worked with Andy at Square D and Jeff Bodines, and I really like Andy. Andy was my mentor. I mean, he was a great fabricator, and then he was Andy. So right. So the guy was insanely intelligent and super intuitive. But then there was Andy.
Yeah.
Can you find Waldo?
Right. So Andy called me up
I always
one
said he's
day.
a great fabricator. Just ask him.
Right. And so Andy called me up one day. Well, I found that out after I went to work there. Yeah. I was the one doing all the fabricating. So Andy calls me up and he says, "Hey, we're doing this RAD program at DEI. We're going to be 2 or 3 people. I'm like, I was so pissed off at where I was. Sure. And don't get me wrong, I love Ray to death. I mean, him and I are still really good friends, and we still do work for him here in this building. But I'm like, okay, I'm done. So I went up to Ray's office. I said, "I'm done. I'm out of here." "Why?" And I told him, and he's like, "Well, you're making a mistake." "Well, no, you're the one that made the mistake now that time passed." And so I went over to DEI, and had like 8 bosses, and but it was a great time. We did so many interesting engineering projects over there, and DEI's engineering was so far behind Evernham's, but at the time it was really ramping up.
Yeah.
And like Jeff said, when these guys said when they got there on the ground floor in 98, 99, I got there on the ground floor of the engineering and worked with so many wonderful people. Charles Jenks was a really good guy. John Klausmeyer, which to me is one of the best crew chiefs in the garage area. He was an intern in the engineering program, and to work with those people and with these guys and do that RAD program, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I mean, it was a difficult job at times, but it was amazing time to be a part of that.
I ended up there because of Warren. So I was working at NASCAR.com as a writer, reporter for them, and he knew some issues, struggles I was having with certain people there. He calls me and goes, "Hey, I don't know if you're interested here, but they just posted this website editor writer thing. You interested?" I go, "Yeah." So I applied, and I had a good discussion. And they're like, "Okay, it's down to you and another guy." Well, they called and said, "Yeah, we're going to hire the other guy." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm not going to be a jerk when I say this, but it's not going to work out because he's looking beyond you. So when it doesn't work out, I'll take your call." He goes, "Oh, seem pretty confident." I go, "Yeah, what do I have to lose?" Christmas Eve, a couple months later, they called me up and said, "Hey, how you been?" I go, "Hey, what's going on?" And I knew it was coming. So by the time we got done, I had a job at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated. And I'll never forget hanging up that phone going, "Holy Santa Claus, man, I'm going to work at DEI. Holy shit." I mean, it was good. So because of Warren, I ended up there. And then while I was there, I got thrown into the public relations deal with Truex, and that kind of started that whole path.
And then you end up in the Porthole Lounge in Port Orange.
Oh my God! So we win the Daytona 2003. 2000 win the Daytona 500. You know, I was. You guys called it what? Carpet land? Is that what you called the area I worked in?
Yes.
But I always felt more like a shop guy because you know he knows because I used to walk through the 8 shop. I walk through and people stop and talk to me. Finally, he comes out one time and he goes, "What are you doing? You can bring your checkbook next time." I go, "What are you talking about? You got to stop these guys. You got to pay these guys." And I'm like, "What's your problem?" And I ended up buying a Mustang off him for my stepkid at the time. So you know, and we went out. So we win the 500. Everyone disappears. I'm like, "Man, I'm ready to roll." And I end up with Aaron, and he goes, "Come on, go with me." I go, "Sure. What do I care right now?" You know.
Yeah.
And we ended up at where?
Porthole Lounge.
The place was off
Port
the beaten
Orange.
path.
Oh, yeah.
You could walk in and you could cut the smoke.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you could taste the grease in the smoke. And I'm like, and there's like blue hairs and all these people. I'm like, I'm gonna die the night of winning the Daytona 500. This sucks, but we stayed and that was it.
That was
And
great.
somehow we ended up back there. How long did you work there? I was there for 4 years.
7 years I
Right.
was there.
I was 11 or 12 years.
I was there from '98 till it went to Chip Ganassi till
Okay.
it turned out to be 9 years, almost 10. I almost got my 10-year
Oh yeah,
thingy, whatever you get, but
Oh yeah.
3 years.
3 years you were there.
I was right between Brian and Warren.
Okay.
Like right at 10.
It was the longest cup
Yeah.
team I ever worked at because I was like one of those guys
Same
that
here.
was like, I don't need this shit, I'm leaving.
Right.
yeah, I've only worked at 3 places in 23 years.
I think I
worked
worked
at
at all of them.
All right, so we're all sitting here. You had a great line before we came out here. You said, "Look at all of us sitting together, despite the fact we."
A lot of us didn't like each other.
Yeah, at some point in time.
All right. So okay,
we all butted heads.
We all say except for Jeff.
none of us had a fight with Jeff.
But if he stands up and we stand up, everybody would see why.
All right,
You
so
know?
you and Tim got into it.
So
Full time, yeah?
at one point in time in my career, I probably was a little bit, had a pretty good head swelling. You know, everybody needs to get humbled. I say the sport will humble you
Oh, yeah,
in a
heartbeat,
heartbeat. And Tim and I are friends. I mean, we'd go have beers on every Wednesday, and one day he says, "We need to go outside."
Vinny's Dollar Beer Night. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "We need to go outside. I got to talk to you."
Trouble.
And I'm like, "What? What's wrong? We gotta get this car." You know, and he's like, "No, you gotta go outside." And he takes me outside and he says, "If you don't stop being an asshole," he says, "I'm gonna beat the shit out of you."
Is that what you told him?
Yeah,
What,
he
Tim,
told- he told
what
me
did
that
you,
just
what did you
like
do?
that.
What did you do, Tim? Do you
He was
remember?
stressed out.
I
His wife
get it,
was
yeah.
pregnant with twins.
Yeah.
He was all over the map.
So he was being.
But I
asshole.
needed it. I definitely. I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry. I probably needed that." You know, but it's like I say, you can't. I'm so nice now after that. I mean, not all the time, but
Sure.
most of the time, because I still make. I like to make fun of engineers,
Sure.
and
Well, who doesn't?
yeah. I mean, because really sitting here, we're all really engineers. We just don't have the paper.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You
All the
know,
stuff you've done.
because we're all
Hard knocks.
yeah, we all fix stuff, and we troubleshoot and we problem solve
And design.
and design stuff, and none of us have a piece of paper that says we do. But
All right. So who did you butt heads with here?
Everybody.
yeah, me and Aaron went around
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, we did. We went around. I don't remember what it was.
I know
about.
what it was about.
What was it?
So it was well,
I tried to stay in stealth mode all the time. but Warren geared me up.
there was a speedway car that came off my plate, and it was an Xfinity. It was a Busch car.
Right.
And it was for Pops. He was Dale Jr. was going to drive it, and I think Menard got to drive it, and anyways, it was a really good car, and a lot of the car was that I copied one of the 8 cars builds and just kind of put it in a Busch car, and Aaron and I actually ended up going to the wind tunnel with it, and we were fine. But Aaron wanted a build sheet. He came up to me one day and he says, "I gotta have a build sheet for that car," and I'm like, "Yeah, so?" And he's like, "No, you're gonna give me a build sheet for that car," and I'm like, "You're not getting one from me. You're gonna have to go see someone else." And he's like, "You're gonna give me a build sheet for that car," and I ended up giving him a build sheet for that car because I think that was another time I was ready to get my ass kicked. So I kind of handed him one and said, "All right, I guess you get a build sheet."
I still have
for
it. I'll give it to you.
I don't want it.
I got a whole briefcase. I still
But anyways, and we ended up going to the tunnel with the car, and we were fine after that. But that was
Well,
just it.
what was really funny about that was what Warren's saying. After I left DEI in 2007, 6, whatever. So Harvick calls me and he says, "Hey, you need to come over here and help us build some speedway cars." All right, I got to build something. Right? So I'm like, I'm not working there. This is contract labor.
Right.
I don't want to work there. He's like, all right, come on over. So I go over there, and I slept in my truck in the parking lot because the place was so far over there. And Dan Stillman had went over there, and Dan's
Yep.
the one
Oh, yeah,
that
another
called
guy.
me. Dan's the one that called me to go over there. So, I work with these guys, and, we build this car, and we go to the wind tunnel, and it was like a, back then with the Busch car with the wicker bill and stuff, it was
Yeah.
like a 370 was a really good car. 370 with the wicker bills on a Busch car was a really good car, where the Cup cars were probably 20, 30 less. Our best DEI Speedway car was an 8 car, which Dwayne Beaver built, on Dwayne's plate was a 299.
Remember that?
I have this. I have
Oh,
stamp-
yeah.
I have
You
it
got
all.
the sheets.
I still have that. I got a whole briefcase back sitting right there full of that stuff. And so we go to the wind tunnel, and they're like, "Well, our car's a 374. It's as good as that DEI car." And they put it in yaw, and it was like a 410. And I'm like, what the hell? How the hell can that be a better car? It's, because the DEI cars, we lost drag in yaw.
And yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of good people figured that out, and it was Warren and Tim and Andy, a lot of people,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Dwayne and all those guys had input. Those cars lost drag and yaw. How do you do that? I still don't understand it.
We said it was motor. We always said it was engine pulling.
So,
We know what you were doing though. It was awesome.
so we go to the wind tunnel, and he's like, "Well, our car's as good as the DEI car." I'm like, "How you figure?" "Well, it's 374, 374. I said, "Yeah, you're 410 and yaw." And he's like, "Well, that don't matter." Well, that's half the goddamn track.
You're more there than in the straightaway.
How can that not matter? So we come back from
10
wind
years
tunnel.
later, they're skew, right?
Right.
So I mean, those 2 cars, Tony Stewart drove one, Harvick won one. They go win. They won first and second Daytona. Harvick walks in, and he goes, and them guys are standing in the fab shop, and I was getting ready to leave anyway. I didn't want to be there. It was just dumb. And Harvick goes, "Well, we could have done better." I said, "What the hell are you going to do? Tie for first?" And he goes, "You don't like your job here much." I said, "No, I'm done. I'm over this stuff." And that him and I had a conversation. I packed my stuff up and went home. And other than some stuff we did, we did a little bit of stuff for Gerhardt here and there, but did some other stuff after that. But that was the end of my. I had and then the COT car came out. And I had enough. And
Right.
that's where we started. That's when I started the garage shop. It's like 2008, 2009.
So Jeff, you were engines. You were also gas man, weren't you? You also
Well, started out as a jackman.
right, jackman. that's
And
right.
when it
And
went
you're
from-
so big, you just lifted the car up, didn't you?
He didn't even get jack.
Yeah, he's like, roll the jack. I'll be
so,
right back.
so that's the cool thing, or the fun thing was Kevin Pinnell, two beer. He was he was a jackman in the Busch days, which was Xfinity. When it went to Cup, I've got the position, and he stayed and really did things at shop. Came on cram and really got the shop shored up. So when the guys on the road came back, we were ready to go the next week. And the next week it was really organized. Went to Dover or Pocono, one of the races, to get a lot of fog, and we had a problem where we couldn't get the weekend guys in. So Kevin had come up. I think we had stayed for a test. Well, Kevin was there, and I said, well, "I've gassed before. Move Kevin back to Jack. I'll gas." And we got the whole road crew and the pit crew at one. And Pops loved it. Tony Seniors loved that. So we didn't have to worry about anybody missing an airplane anymore. So I moved to the gas. Plus, you're the engine guy. You're figuring fuel mileage anyway. So it really fit with me. Kevin's back at the jack, and he's just a bull, right? Strong, and plus I was getting to the age where I didn't want to admit it, but you get a little old, your knees slow down, and he was right in there, and the speed was there. So
He was smaller.
it was small speed, and it was stealthy.
Yeah, he was stealthy.
But back to the numbers he's talking about with the wind tunnel, that was the benchmark in the industry. I mean, we would literally go to the track, go through our checklisting on Sunday morning, get our car on the grid, and we'd go back and start setting up for teardown. And people are like, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're getting ready to tear down. We're going to win today." And they're like, "You think so?" And we went 3 years, won every plate race except for one was a fuel mileage, and we damn near ran them back down from a lap down of pitting. I think David Reagan's the only one who ever won at the plate race, but we were running that Yates car back down from a lap down with the DEI car.
Remember when him and Park, Dale Jr. and Park wrecked, and they're out there by themselves? He's got the bolted-on nose.
Yes.
And all of a sudden he goes and wins it. We're all like, what?
Oh,
the
yeah.
hell?
But
Well,
that was the benchmark.
The wind tunnel deal, when we used to do the GM stuff, we used to get all that information. And, you'd go there because GM would pay for the wind tunnel. So you would get, it wouldn't say whose car was
Right.
who.
But we could figure it out.
We could figure it out.
Yeah.
The cars we didn't ever even race were better than Hendrick's best cars.
Yeah.
All cars were better.
Right.
Our third backups were better than their primaries.
Right,
It
the cars
was
that never even left
ridiculous.
the shop.
Yeah.
So, Brian, you're back there in the shop. Did you ever go on the road, or you were?
I was a race day guy.
Okay,
always,
Okay. And but back at the shop, you were the shop leader. You made sure that 8 car kind of stayed focused.
And it's
in there.
crazy because, in the earlier days when there was only a few of us in the shop, my wife Kelly and I, we went in one Sunday afternoon after the race was done, and we pulled the motor out of the Rockingham car because Tony Jr. wanted it raised up higher than it was, wanted the cross member up higher. So her and I went there and pulled the motor out and cut the motor mounts off, raised them, cut the cross member, raised it.
On a Sunday after.
On a Sunday after a race. Just so they could be in there Monday, and it had to be on the setup plate Monday morning. That was.
I think that's what's lacking these days.
What's that?
Yeah, there's nothing like that.
No.
That's what's
There's
lacking.
none of that.
It's just grit.
And
True grit. Never give up.
everybody has a production shop. You know what I mean? It's not it's not. You're not going to do heavy fab in your you know what? Plus, you can't anymore. They changed the rules, but like what you're saying, Brian, is you just don't have. I'm a finished fab specialist.
Yeah.
I'm a crush panels. I'm a windows.
Right.
It was we were all
did it
all
all.
roofers.
No, it's the razor's
you know
edge.
what
I
I
mean,
say? I do everything from the roof
They've
down.
lost the
You
racer's
know what I
edge.
mean?
They've lost the racer's edge.
Yeah.
We would do anything, any time of the night or day to get in there and find speed,
Yep.
change an engine,
Yeah.
change engine. You
Cut the
check the
front clip
garage.
off
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
With the
whatever it
engine in
took to make speed,
No one
and
cared
that's
about
the
the hour.
commitment we had.
But
No,
do
kids
you
today
guys
don't have it.
do you guys remember when we went to Daytona Test? Because Bob Bowser and I used to drive the Fab trailer, and so Bob and I, Steve Mill bet me we couldn't make it to Daytona before the King Air. I won. I think I was 5.5 hours. So we're down. Michael Waltrip knocked the fence down the first lap of the test. Steve Mill come over to us, said, "Empty the Fab trailer out. We're going to send." I'm like, "Empty it where?" He goes, "I don't care, in the parking lot." So we did. There's our whole Fab trailer. They put Michael's car in the trailer. You were probably in on this one.
Yeah, I had to
Remember
stay
that?
and work on it.
They took that car home. This is a 3-day test. They got that car home at midnight. Warren, I think they cut the body off of it, took it to the chassis shop. BJ and all them guys put a right side rail, door bars, front clip on that thing. Warren and Tim, I think, might have been involved in that. They put the whole right side, the whole nose, everything on it, painted it back to primer, brought it back to Daytona, and sat on top of the board with the damn thing
Oh, yeah.
on the 3rd day. Are you kidding?
We've never taken it to the tunnel.
Right. Are you kidding me? I mean, that's how stout those resources know people.
But and you
We
did
had the best cars, always the best.
What made
cars.
him? What made him the best, Tim? You're a master.
It was everybody together. Everybody's ideas together made them the best cars,
right.
and we copied each other. I mean, one car would go to the tunnel, they'd find something, we'd go over there and look at it and use it.
It was the heavy blues, right? Remember Tony Jr.? Give
Yep.
me heavy blue on
Give
that
me
thing.
heavy blue. Yeah, how you made the template key fit. You know.
Yeah. Heavy blue.
And
Okay.
I'll get that through. He would tell you, oh, that's a little bit too much
I'll get
there.
that. That was a great.
Or I can get that through.
That was a great.
Well, getting it
statement.
through was easy because all you do is you keep your pocket full of change, If
Right.
there's one template that doesn't fit right, you can jam it up underneath the bumper cover and get the templates to fit. And
Yeah, but
The stuff
you know,
did.
even a lot of the good ideas came right out of the 8 shop too. You know, I got to give them guys a lot of credit because there was a few guys in there, yourself and Tom.
Tom Ryan.
Yeah,
Tom Ryan.
B. Hoover.
Troy Prince.
Troy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Troy,
mean,
yeah.
so
Troy
there was a
Prince.
lot of guys that helped us build those bodies also. You know, because they had good ideas also.
Oh, there were some secrets in them teams. I know.
Yeah, oh,
because I was on all three.
Between the
of them.
teams, there was definitely secrets.
It was the most horrible job on the planet. Because I had like 8 bosses. You get yelled at by Tony Sr., Tony Jr., Slugger, it's like everybody else on the planet. It's like, I'm just doing what the other 10 guys told me to do.
Right.
Well, Tom Ryan, he was always great because he looked like he just came from a Grateful Dead concert.
Yeah.
You know, because he had the hair and everything, but he was so smart and he talked so slow. It's like, and I always took tours and I always tried to avoid his toolbox because every time he caught a bug, remember, he would pin it. He would pin it up there, so he had like this death row around his toolbox. So I'm going to tour, like, and that's so then we can, look over here real quick. He's like, come on, show. I go, no, man.
Insect collection.
Yeah, it was good. What do you think made it so good? What was it so special? What was so about those times?
Everybody had heart. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Big E drove it, but everybody there, talking about Brian's story about going for his interview, same thing with me and everybody here. Everybody had that relationship with Dale. Going in the office, kick his feet up on the boots up on the table, and you're like petrified. We all were very confident in our own world, but when you get in the office one-on-one with him, it's a game changer. And he told you what he expected, and then he told you who you were working for. You knew the chain of command, and you knew if you did your job and you did it right, it was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
And then that's why everybody collaborated so good and worked together. It was a true team. And it was everybody's had heart, man, big heart in those days. You know, we'd gone through losing Davey Allison, and we lost Allen, Rob Moroso, a lot of really good young drivers. You never expected Big E to be one of those guys.
We had our ups and downs, but at the end of the day, there wasn't nobody from Joe Gibbs going to come over there and whoop our ass. We'd take them all out.
Hey everybody, this is Tim Packman for the Garage Shop Insider. We appreciate all your views. We appreciate you being part of it. But we need one little favor. We would like you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. Just click the little subscribe button. Then we can keep up with all the great things we have been doing and all the things we're going to be doing. So that's it. That's all we need you to do. Hit subscribe, become part of the team. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.